This is Danielle over at the Weather Service, and so we are going to jump right in. Really not a whole lot to talk about today. No heat headlines for the next 5 days, which is pretty exciting. Increasing chances of rain Friday through the beginning of next Monday. We'll talk a lot more about that in a couple slides, but basically could see some beneficial rain in some areas, but it could also result in some isolated flash flooding due to the hard ground with the ongoing drought. The not so great news is that overall the drought is likely to continue, but in those places that do get a little extra rain, there could be some improvement. And unfortunately, this brief wet period isn't going to last very long. Rain chances really start to drop off by the middle of next week, and we're looking at the potential for hazardous or excessive heat to return by the second week of September. So we'll start off with the great news. No tropical cyclone threats to the Gulf in the next 7 days. Monitoring a few things out there over the Atlantic, but none of them look to be a threat to us here locally. Some also good news is, like I mentioned, we do have some increased rain chances Friday through Monday. The best rain chances and highest rainfall totals are generally going to be across those southeastern areas, as you can see in that map. Some places could see 2 to 3 or even in excess of 4 inches of rain. There's a little bit of a caveat there, like it's good news, but also the ground is pretty hard because of the ongoing drought. So there could be more runoff than usual in the heavier storms, and that's going to have two things that kind of come along with it. The first is that there could be some isolated flash flooding possible in the areas that receive the heavier rain, and then also because so much of that rain could turn into runoff, it could be less beneficial than what we are currently hoping for drought relief. So some kind of good news, but also just a little bit of a potential hiccup there as well with the hard ground because of the drought. Moving into the not as great news, the Drought Monitor was updated this morning, and that extreme drought area, the D3, that bright red, has been expanded across almost the entire forecast area. Far eastern Jackson County, still in a severe drought, D2, but everywhere else in the forecast area is now classified as being extreme drought. Also not great news is that it does look like the drought is expected to persist through the month of September, but there could be some improvement, mainly across those eastern areas where we're talking about the potential for a little bit of heavier rain, mainly in this first week coming up. And then, as I also mentioned, going into the second week of September, there is now a moderate or 40% chance of excessive heat returning to the area by that time frame. So we'll be keeping an eye on that moving into the week 2 time frame. So that's really all I've got. We've got this brief wetter period Friday through, that should say Monday, with beneficial rain in the forecast across southeastern areas. However, that does come with the caveat that if it falls too quickly, it's not going to have as much effect on the drought, and it is going to turn into runoff more quickly, and that could lead to some isolated flash flooding. And then the rain chances do drop off by the middle of next week, with another threat of excessive heat going into the second week of September.